before we get into the show, make sure to do a couple things. First of all, click the subscribe button down below and make sure to turn on your notifications, please, in order to get updated content that I start to put out. I do put out weekly videos, so hopefully you enjoy those. The second thing you can do is to make sure to be empathetic and understanding for all of my guests that come on this show, but otherwise, enjoy the show. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Deep Dives into the Minds of Esports. My name is Blake Panashevitz, and I am excited to announce my guest today. He's a DPS player who previously played for Misfits, which was rebranded into Florida Mayhem. He then went on to play for XL2, the academy team that is involved in Contenders, and now he is involved with the Montreal Rebellion, probably one of the coolest team names as far as graphics out there. Please let me introduce Andreas Berghmans, maybe better known as Logix.
Hello, hello.
Welcome.
Nice to be on the show.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this one.
Yeah.
I think I messed up your last name a little bit still. It's just like the curse of what I do. It was a little bit.
It's fine overall, you know.
Yeah, well.
Definitely to pronounce, especially with the random H in there. So it's good.
Yeah, so I'm excited to have you on the show. We're going to have a lot of cool stuff to talk about, especially as you as a person. I normally like to try to start off the shows very light and make it easier and then kind of widen into the more difficult questions that I will obviously ask you later on. So we're gonna kind of start off here a little slow. You were born in Belgium, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Born and raised.
Born and raised in Belgium. That's important because I was born in Japan, but I was obviously not raised in Japan. So born in Belgium. What is Belgium like, and are Belgian waffles truly the best food you can get there?
As far as waffles, probably not. There's some good restaurants. I guess like it's because I haven't had a Belgian waffle in years, so it's not. I feel like it's more like a tourist kind of thing.
Okay.
Unlike some countries where like they actually eat their most popular food like frequently.
Yeah.
I think in Belgium, like just more a tourist thing where like, oh, if you go to Belgium, hey, you better be eating a Belgian waffle.
Okay.
As far as Belgium, I was born like one of the bigger cities, but I was raised in one of the smaller towns, so it was nothing really like super interesting. Pretty normal childhood as a kid, I think. Both my parents went to a normal school. People of my age, my family lived really close, so had a lot of contact with them. But honestly, for the first few years, not that much interesting happened.
Okay, so when you say you lived in a small town, you had lots of family close. So I don't really, like, what does that mean to you? Because it's different. Some people have tons of family, like cousins, nephews, and like for me, I quite literally didn't talk to like any of my family growing up, really. I didn't really have much contact with any of them. Like the closest family, I had some grandparents I talked to, an occasional cousin, but I didn't really have like a ton of family that I talked to. What does it mean for you when you say you had a lot of family kind of nearby?
So we lived in the city in which like 80% of my mom's family side was living. Quite literally, we lived like 3 houses away from our cousins who are like basically the same age as us. We were like 1 street away from our grandparents, like 5 streets away from another aunt. So it's like really, really tight. Like we basically, I saw my cousins every day. They were like pretty much throughout my childhood, as much friends that I had at school. I'd say my cousins were like pretty much my best friends because we would pretty much hang out every day. So family meant a lot.
So looking at Belgium, I've obviously talked to a lot of people who are from some European countries. Like so far, I think actually Germany has been the biggest. I think we're up to like 5 guests from Germany. Germany seems to be my hot ticket from for guests here.
Yeah.
So what is the Belgium school system like? Because that's something we're going to talk about the way that it's structured, the way that kind of affected you. What is the Belgium school system like for you?
So I think you go to school. Make sure I don't mess up. I think you start going to school at the age of between 2 and 3. I think. Mm-hmm. You go to like the child. I don't know what it's called necessarily, but the child grades for 3 years.
Okay, in America we call it elementary school. From like
okay, so yeah,
and that's actually we actually have ours for 12 years. That you have the other one.
We have, I guess it's sort of like different. We have like a run-in into school where the first 3 years you do like very basic tests of like being able to give with children and like solving like easy things, I guess, as a kid. Just see how you interact with other people. and then once you go through like certain tests, you can like go to the next tier. But it's like very basic stuff. Like unless there's actually something wrong with like your social interactions or anything like that, like everyone just goes through those 3 years flawlessly, without much help. And if you need help, you know, there's always help available at the school. But then you move into elementary first, which is 12 years. No, is till you're 12. Sorry, so it's like 9-ish years. How long you take the journey? It's just 9 years of elementary school. Or is it? Yeah, I'm so confused. It might actually just be elementary school for the first 3, because no, elementary is only, I don't know. So from year 3 to 6, you do like the first 3.
Okay, that's
years.
Preschool for us. Ages 3 to 6 is preschool.
Okay, I guess it's called pre. These terms in English are a bit confusing.
No, it's fine.
But yeah, so it's preschool from between 3 and 6, and between 6 and 12, you do your elementary school, and then 12 to 8, what we call like high school.
Okay.
Or would be equivalent to your high school. So and after, obviously, you have the choice to go university.
Yeah. Which university? So Germany has a really weird system where as you get higher in the school system, you get to choose kind of like which school you want to go to. And there's almost like 3 different tiers. Do you have any different tiers of like the education level of school? Is it broken down in any way like that?
Yeah, there's definitely, the moment you go to, after year 12, you go to like the higher tier, high school. And that's broken down into 3 tiers in Belgium. I think they're, like literally next year, they're changing it to only 2 tiers.
Oh, okay.
But when I was growing up, it was 3 tiers, which is like focused on an actual job, focused on a more technical aspect, or focusing on like more the history, I guess, aspect, like learning more like Latin and like very deep maths. So it's like not nearly as technical, but like more focused on other stuff. So it's like I started in the highest group of people, I guess, which is like the more, like you're not focused on your job, it's like more focused on after you do this, you go to university. So I started off with that for like, I guess it's where my entire childhood kind of changed, because I've been through a lot of stuff growing up, because my school years were like very different from what other people, because I didn't actually finish high school. I had like very many different years, so maybe something to go into.
Yeah, definitely something. We can jump back to that. We can start off. So I think that a lot of the stuff that you put out, you've kind of put out like a very short synopsis of what had happened. You'd done an article with the Blizzard people, and I cannot remember the person who wrote that. So please, whoever, if they watch this, they probably don't. But if they do, I am sorry, I don't remember your name, because it was actually a very good article. But you put out an article and you worked with them on kind of talking a lot about your life, and your life has some dark moments in it. And I think that is, a lot of people have dark moments and a lot of people don't want to look at them, but you were very open about yours, which I found something to be very, very positive, because I think there's a lot of people who go through some of those things, and having someone that they look up to who's also been through them and has succeeded and moved past them is a very, very powerful thing, in my opinion. So first of all, thank you so much for doing that and being able to talk about some of this stuff. And I think that we can start off with the almost like the very beginning then. All right. So the stuff that I've been able to gather is that you have 3 brothers, right? 2
older brothers.
2 older brothers. Okay. Yeah. Well, that article is wrong slightly. 2 older brothers. So how much older are they than you?
So I'm the youngest of 3 sons. There's 2 years between each of us, so I'm the youngest, +2. There's my middle brother, and +2. There's my other brother, so 2 and 4. So
your oldest brother's 4 years older.
Yes,
which
correct.
is, I'm actually 4 years older than my little brother, so it's kind of,
there you go.
Kind of weird. So the moment where your life kind of changed, you wrote in that article, was kind of at age 5. Do you remember much before age 5?
No, not quite. It's like there's a lot of information missing from me personally, because it's like I don't have much memory before that. So as we go further into, I'll explain why that age is so important. But yeah, so I don't remember that much before the age of
Yeah, and actually, that's not totally uncommon. Most people, especially when they start to get older, they start to forget a lot of the things before like certain ages. And 5 tends to be one of the ones. So if you don't remember before 5, it's actually not that common. Like I don't remember, like I think I have 1 or 2 memories maybe before the age of 5 that I remember. But so it's fairly common for that to.
I feel like most of it is just tales that people tell you, and then you like maybe like link it to something. It's like, oh yeah, that I could see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, false memories are a real thing. Like you can actually create false memories in people. So it's not totally surprising that the memories that you might have might not be actually true or not, which is terrifying. Exactly. It's terrifying if you think about that. Are these my memories? It feels real. Past, I know. So at age 5, a fairly traumatic thing happened to you.
Yeah.
And so why don't you tell the story of kind of what happened with your dad and everything?
So I mean, it's just. I don't remember the exact date it was, but I'm pretty sure it was just a regular school night. We come home from school. We just wait at our grandparents' house or our own house, depending on what the day it was. But we were just waiting at home, waiting for our dad to get home. My mom was already home because her job hours just worked out differently. And at a certain point, she gets a call that my dad, on his way from work back to home, got into a car accident. Well, he drive the scooter, so he got in an accident with a car. The easiest way to explain it, he was trying to cut like traffic, or like not traffic, to like a line of people just waiting on the highway, like slow times. He tried to drive through that with his scooter, and the driver made like a illegal but like unfortunate turn where his bike got like stuck on the front wheel, and he like turned over and landed on his head, which basically made it so his frontal brain like lobe, I guess you call it.
Yeah, the frontal
got hit. Yeah. So obviously we didn't know it, but now I know, which controls like all your emotions. Yep. So basically from that point onwards, my dad had like very hard trouble with controlling emotions and just generally like seeing or like measuring the emotion from other people. Like I have a very hard time with that. So from that point onwards, like obviously there was a lot of revalidation because obviously the car crash, it took him several weeks to be good after that. But after that, both my parents went into like relationship therapy because I think the doctor that treated my dad basically told my mom like, listen, people that have like frontal brain damage, more often than not, if they're in a relationship, I think 80% of them, their relationship just doesn't work anymore because it's like that person becomes a whole different person.
Yep.
Which makes it hard to live by. Especially because you don't know, like, the way that person reacts to everything is not, like now totally different. So it's like, the way I see it is like, you basically, my mom was married to a different person at that. And it made life quite literally hard. In following the several years after, my dad obviously, he moved back in home, like, physically he was fine. But having to live with a person that, because I don't know if this is like common, but he personally, after the accident, didn't realize that things change. Like they don't have that perception.
Yeah.
So it made living with him very difficult. Like they would get in constant arguments because my dad had like, not necessarily temporary issues, but like issues controlling his emotions. So like a very minor thing could turn out into like a big fight between mom and dad. Like, I'd say pretty much every day for like a minor thing. So it went by for like several years actually. I think 6 years in total. My mom tried to make it work. Like even at the beginning, I should say, like they tried to go to that marriage counselor, like relationship counsel. That the doctor told them like, listen, 80% of relationships don't work. But I mean, we want to obviously try and help you guys make things work. But my dad was like, I mean, I didn't change. It was just a car crash. Things like that happen. So he basically refused that therapy after a while because he didn't feel like it was useful at all because he didn't perceive the way he changed as everyone else did. So after that, I think the therapy stopped after like a few months. And for the next 5 years at that point, it was just like an actual hell at home. Especially, I'm at the age of 5 or 6. My brother is obviously 7 or 9 respectively. And it would be like, yeah, you just come home from school and your dad changed. Like, there would be super regular fights. like at the family table. We were just dinner breaks down. We run upstairs because we were scared. Because my dad starts screaming at my mom. My mom screams back, obviously, because you get in a fight. You just hear screaming from downstairs when you're upstairs if you're a kid. I mean, that's just a scary thought. I mean, obviously, I know now that nothing physically happened. So it was mainly like just mentally. That as a kid, you hear both your parents screaming day in and day out. That's like very, very tough. During several of those fights, my dad obviously, I don't know if he realized or it just came to like abusive with words, but like basically just said like, okay, I'm gonna take a drive, like calm down or whatever, or maybe it needed time alone. I'm not exactly sure, but basically took time off, just drove around for the rest of the night, and then this is like really messed up for me still to talk about. But he would like call us near the end of the night, and we're about to go to bed. Call my mom, ask us to get on the phone, and like say stuff like he would end himself, kill himself, drive into like a tree, or just off the road, or anything like that. And obviously, as a kid, when your dad calls you that, says that, that's extremely hard. Not knowing if you have a dad the next morning is like very stressful. Obviously, I mean, we obviously had to try and go to bed because we had school in the morning, so it was kind of like not knowing what would happen the next day. But every time and again, the next morning he would just be home, and he would not realize that things were as bad, and he would literally just move on with his day, pretending. Hold up. He would basically pretend like nothing had happened, and he would just move on with his day, go back to work. I mean, it would be a repeat every day. I mean, I'd say every day, but I'm sure there were days where it wasn't. Just in my perception, it felt like that every day. Where, I mean, fights broke out. Obviously, the calling thing didn't happen every fight, but the fights were very regular, and it was just like a literal hell to live in. Having to be so scared. We're running upstairs with my brothers. Them just holding me super, super close to them, protecting. But yeah, that was a very stressful time.
Yeah,
through those early years. I mean, eventually, especially when we got older, because my mom, obviously, I mean, as much as it's like really shit for us to go through and hear the screams, my mom was a little person, screaming to him. So, eventually she don't hold up.
Take as much time as you need to.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, she went to doctors to talk about it. That's not a normal situation to be in. So eventually she got a medicine. My dad eventually blamed my mom for the fights because he thought she had changed, which is like the whole other world. I mean, now kind of funny, really messed up. But eventually when we got older, our mom sat us down. I think it was 5 years later, so I was like 9 to 10 years old. Our mom sat us down, and it's like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it's so much of a hellhole for me to be in. Like, I mean, obviously she was mentally, like, really messed up at the time. Like, it's not something any person could go through. So she basically sat down with us. I was 10, my brothers were 12 and 14 respectively. And she basically said, like, she had talked to her dad, I think, at the time. She said, like, I'm really thinking about a divorce here, because, I mean, this is not something that she wanted us to go through, nor that she wanted to go through anymore. And, I mean, with our decision, it's funny to say, but obviously we were like, yeah, I mean, we understand this is not something we want to do anymore either, So, I mean, we obviously all agreed, like, a divorce is probably the best thing here. So, I mean, the whole process of divorce started. Obviously, my dad didn't know till a certain point where the divorce documents, or like the start of a divorce, there is a lawyer that comes to your house and delivers the documents to your partner. Or like sometimes it gets sent in mail, but my mom decided to have like a sit down with my dad and basically say like, okay, this is just really not working for us. We're going to need to take a break. rethink and how they turn out right now. So I don't know exactly which date it was. Somewhere in 2008, that lawyer came to our home. Obviously, because my mom knew that could be like a very dangerous moment. Because I mean, obviously, you don't know how a person has no control over their emotion is going to act in that scenario. We got also into like family houses and like friends' houses just to be out of that situation, just for our safety. But yeah, that night the lawyer came over, and apparently, I mean, obviously I had to sit down with both my mom and my dad and like introduce them to like, okay, my mom wants to start a divorce with him, and apparently he stayed very calm, so that's like a good thing. I think he was more in shock than anything else, because he didn't perceive things to be as bad as they truly were. So yeah, that was like, I mean, that was good, obviously, that everything went relatively smooth. Obviously he was mad, but not necessarily like as mad as he would be like random other. So that whole process started. The weirdest thing is like, he still lived with us in the house that we owned during that process, and things would just keep going as normal. I don't think they necessarily went worse or went better. They just kept going as it went. But it took us like pretty much an entire year to get things sorted, like the house, and just what kind of control which parent would have over the children. Like we would have to go to like court to talk with like a youth judge to see what we wanted and how we assess the situation. I was 11 at the time, which is normally too young to be assessed, but because my brothers were 15 and 13, the youth judge basically said like, you know, like this is a special scenario, but this kid needs to be heard as well. So I got to talk to him as well. Obviously, very like a very strong situation that they want to control over. But we basically, I think, my older brother, who had like a better view of the situation, basically said like, at this point, I don't want to have any contact with my father at all, because obviously, I mean, he's oldest son. Even after those fights, like when we were upstairs, he would go downstairs to help my mom, like just, I don't know, talk to her, see what happened, and then they would both come back up. I mean, he saw like firsthand what happened to her and how she was after those fights. And he basically like said, like, I don't want to see my dad anymore at all. And then my middle brother was like he had a really hard time actually with like deciding, like he didn't want to see my dad less, but he also didn't want to see my mom less. So he said like, I really just want 50-50, like scheduling time. And I said like, I mean, my mom was there for me, so I basically said like, I just want to be with my mom as much as possible. It wasn't necessarily at the time like I don't want to see my dad. It was more like my mom is there for me. I want to be with my mom as much as. So it turned out to be like a scheduling where my older brother, because he was 15, didn't have to go nearly as much as us because we're still younger. We have like, I guess the judge like just assumed that we knew less about the situation. We would have to go every weekend, every second week, the weekend. So we would like have an entire week with my mom. Then the school week, the last weekend of that week, would be with our dad from Friday evening after school till Monday morning. And then my older brother only had to go like one night a week of the same week. So he did that for a while, but then eventually cut that out. I mean, it was just nothing he was interested in. He was like, I mean, even my dad knew at the time, like, if your son only wants to see you a night every 2 weeks, he obviously understood the message of, you know, he doesn't want to see me. And then my middle brother, because he had like really big issues with deciding, because I mean, at a certain point, you like basically have to compare it to which part do you like more, right? It's not like there's much way around it. So he basically said that he wanted to go to like a boarding school, where it would be during the school week he would be on the boarding school, and then during the weekends he would be 1 weekend mom, 1 weekend dad. So he didn't have to decide. And I basically I was with my mom for a majority of the part, and then those weekends after school I would go to my dad. But even those weekends, like, my dad was a lot less stressful living alone, but it would still be like, I mean, I remember a very specific moment of us having dinner on like a Saturday evening, and I like accidentally like knock over a glass of water, and he like completely freaks out, like gets super mad, and like I mean, a normal person to get mad over it, no big deal. Knock over a glass of water, fine, but he like, I don't know, just got super mad over it. It's like very, very scary. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's just so stuck in my mind, that scenario. It's like over a glass of fucking water, and he gets super mad over it. To a point where I said, like, I mean, those weekends are just too stressful for me. Like, it's like really bad for my mental state. Like, every time, like, I literally scare for my life every Friday evening till Monday morning, till I'm like basically able to get out, sort of, you know. Felt almost like a punishment having to go there. So I basically revisited the child judge when I got a bit older, and I told him, like, this is not something I want to do anymore. I think I did it for like 2 years. At my 14, I went back to the child judge. I said, like, this is not something I want to do. I don't feel safe. It's not something I want to do. We had another run-in with the police because I felt threatened because someone, I can say I came home from school and I was just watching TV, and I imagined my dad had like a rough day at work, and for some reason, I think he literally just randomly got mad. Like, I didn't even say anything. I was just watching TV, and he was cutting like I don't know, vegetables or potatoes for the next fucking dinner that day, and he pointed the knife at me like really closely. And obviously, I mean, I knew he didn't want to harm me, but at a given time, I'm like, I mean, my dad's like, he can't control his emotions, so I feel super when that happens, because I don't know what happens next at that point. So I basically ran outside, called my mom, saying like that was like the tipping point for me. Like, I don't want to be like pointed at with her, like even like it's just a little knife. I don't care. Like, I don't feel safe here. I don't know what happens at any given point. I don't want to be around a person that can't control his emotions, even if it's my dad. So I basically just said, like, I mean, the police got involved. Obviously, nothing came of it because nothing had happened. But after that happened, like, I mean, the police said, maybe it's better if you go home to your mom, because my dad got really mad at me for calling the police. I mean, obviously he didn't mean that, and like now it makes him look worse, especially because he didn't realize that he could come over like aggressively. So he was like really mad that I called the police. But it basically like turned out that I got home with my mom because the police obviously assessed the situation and said, like, maybe it's better at the time. Because this is when my parents were living apart already after a divorce. But even previously, when we were at the house together with my parents, like, police got called several times because, I mean, things got too aggressive or my mom felt threatened, whatever. So obviously the police got called. They knew about the situation. They knew that my dad was someone with that frontal like lobe like problem. So they knew the situation, and they basically said, for that day, you can just go home. And I got to that judge pretty. And after that, they ruled that I wouldn't have to go. Or like, I think only from Saturday morning to Sunday evening. Because it's like, I didn't want to be there alone. Because my brother would come home from boarding school Monday morning and would go to there again Sunday evening. So I said, like, I don't want to be there alone. I don't feel safe. And we did that for a while, but I mean, even then, like, there would be times where I literally was too scared to even get in a car with him. And there were weekends that I didn't go. Mm-hmm. And I mean, after a few years, that kind of just deteriorated, and I stopped going overall. Even though, like, the court ruled that I would have to go, yeah. I didn't actually go anymore. It was too stressful. I was too scared.
You just stopped following it, which is pretty common, as long as someone doesn't make a big deal about it.
Yeah.
And that event just sounds like I have a lot of questions I want to ask you about some of the stuff that kind of occurred with you. So the first question I want to ask you is, obviously you went through this for a long time with your mom involved, where they were together. And I imagine that that was extremely scary and devastating. How did that affect you when you would go to like school and stuff like that? Was school a place where you looked to be, oh my God, I get to get away from this? Or was school something like negative where you're like, oh God, I also have this on top of this?
it was like, I'd say a mix of both. I mean, I'm extremely lucky. Like, both my parents, I mean, are relatively smart. So I got lucky in that sense that I'd say I'm a pretty smart person myself. Like, I got through my education without any trouble at all. But obviously that moment divorce started, added a lot of stress. But even then, like, throughout my last year of like elementary school, that's when the divorce really like kicked in and got going. Like, a lot of sit downs with my parents, and all that stuff. And that was the beginning of like the very stressful period where there would literally be days where I couldn't get out of bed because of stress, because I was so scared. Or like, even after like one of those nights where my dad would call us, it would be like the next morning I literally didn't want to get out of my bed because I was so scared. Like, I didn't know what to expect. But I literally like I started skipping school pretty much because I was so scared. Like, I didn't want to go outside. I guess some first signs of a depression or whatnot. But basically just like started skipping school pretty frequently. But combined with me being relatively smart, that was okay because I could just miss out on like 30-40% of the classes and still get like top grades in my class. So it wasn't really an issue. I mean, it was only elementary school, so the school didn't make that much of an issue out of it either. So I got through that last year pretty, like, relatively easy. They didn't make too much of a big deal out of it. But then the next year, like the last year of elementary school, that was when, like, near the end of that year was when divorce was like pretty much done, like fully. So the house was being sold as well, because my dad was like, I don't want to let you guys live in here. So we basically just had, my parents had to sell the house and split it 50-50. Because my mom couldn't buy it over.
Yeah.
So we had to move to a different city. Though it was relatively close, I had to move to a different school because I was going to high school. I was going to a different school because all my friends were going to like a school close to the previous school.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of change all at once within like several months. And September 1st, I just crashed. Like, I legit mentally crashed. I just couldn't handle it. Like, I would literally go to school and I would just have like, my stomach would just burn from the stress. Like, it would be like my intestines had like a fucking knot in them. Like, would literally just hurt so much. And like, I tried going to school, but it was just so painful that I literally started crying in front of school because it would hurt so much, like the pain. That my mom said like, okay, we have to go to a doctor because it's like, this happened for like several weeks starting September 1st to like another period. Like I would just not go to school properly. I would go like one odd day in a week or something like that. Most of the time I would just sit at home because every morning I would just get those pains again. Like, now I know that. It's something described as like chronic stress from pain. Something along the lines. I'm not exactly sure what the English is, but I basically, like, my stomach was so stressed out, it would give me like physical pain, even though there wasn't physically anything. There was nothing wrong with my stomach, but my body would make it feel as though there was like something burning in there, or like, I don't know, something extremely painful. And like, it literally, I don't know, like I cried every morning before the school gates for like weeks. Till I got like, after I got so exhausted, I basically went back to bed every morning. So it was like a really weird period of not going to school, having those crazy like stomach burns, and then going back to bed, waking up. I would start playing video games because obviously I didn't go to school. So in that sense, video games were pretty much a big escape from throughout my entire life. Even during those stressful periods before, like, I would play video games whenever I can because it's like, literally an escape from a shitty world.
That's for me. Video games are actually much the same thing. So my parents split up when I was very young, and my mom actually was a drug addict, and my stepdad was very abusive as well. And so I that's where I lived primarily until I was almost my second to the last year of high school is when I swapped to living with my dad, actually. But that's what I would use video games for me personally, which is why I always wanted to get involved with video games and work with people who had worked with video games, because I figured that I wasn't just the only person who had used it for some reason or another. Not saying everyone has horrible childhoods, but it is an escape for a lot of people, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that, in fact, it's probably a very beneficial thing for both of us, having something there. That is some sort of stability when everything else around you is in utter chaos.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it would be mainly, I would play like Star Wars Battlefront 2 as a kid. Be like, I'd have my, I guess my clan at the time was called, my team of people that I played with, and I would be like, I mean, the most fun time of my day, you know, like I would just get to play with people that were happy, you know, it made me in a lot better mood, especially when I came home from school. And that was like a very big escape from everything, I guess from reality, pretty much about it now. So in that sense, it was definitely an escape from something, but it was not something I was like, oh, I want to do something with this. Because it was like, my school was going, I mean, quotation, good. I mean, for not going to school, I was still managing to do tests and do good on them. So I didn't really want to do anything with video games. I mean, I was still planning on studying. I didn't know at the time what, but I just wanted to study, get through with school, and be done with it. But obviously, I mean, as years go by, it's just like between my 12 years of age and between 16, 4 years, I think I maybe went to school like 200 days at best, like some ridiculous amount of, like, ridiculous little amounts of time on school, but that was combined with, obviously, legally, as a child, you have to go to school. So that became a very big issue. Because they see a person that doesn't go to school and afterwards starts playing video games. And it made to them seem like I'm just another person that doesn't want to go to school and just skips out to play video games. But so at first, I think, I don't know the exact dates because there's been many of them. But at one point, I had to go to child court again. They say, like, this is not something you can do. You know, like, at first, like, tick on the hands, like, hey, you can't do this, you have to go to school. And I mean, even there, I told them, like, it's not, like, my stomach really hurts. Like, even though the doctor tells me right now that I don't have anything wrong with my stomach and I should be able to go to school, like, I literally feel so much burning in my stomach every morning. Like, I'm crying because of it. It's not like I'm faking it. It's not like I don't want to go to school. It's not something it's not something I do by choice. But at the time, it was like, I mean, it's a little kid that tells you that they don't want to go to school and plays video games afterwards. So they kind of dismissed or disregarded what I said at that point, or like didn't take it as serious. And they just said, like, you know, just go to school. It's easy. And so they did that one. And then afterwards, I got called again. I still didn't go to school because of the same reason. And I got put in like an observation period, but then like I got taken away from home and I got put into some, I guess, institution, call it, but like some house with other people that didn't go to school, and we would basically have like it would just be a normal day, but we would be examined. We got people to talk to us and just assess, like, why are you not going to school, you know, all that. Do you not like it? Is there another reason? Like, the most insane context that they could think of, they would ask you, you know, is everything fine at home? Is everything fine at school? Obviously trying to figure out why these kids are not going to school. And I basically, like, which is a weird thing, because that period was like a month away from home. And that month, I went to school every day. Because obviously their goal is to get you to school as well. So they, like, literally pay for your tickets from the bus. They watch you go to the bus, step on the bus. And then, like, I just went to school for a month without any trouble. Which was, like, even till this day, I don't have any reason to why it worked back then. And why it didn't work in any other institution I went to, or even back at home. Like, that was, like, probably the weirdest month throughout my entire, or weirdest, like, I guess one of the weirdest periods of my life, where all that stress and pain just went away, and I just went to school normally, which was, like, even thinking about it now, still seems like a really crazy period of time where, I don't know, something must have, like, clicked in that period where it make things easier for me, or they made things easier, or anything like that. But I mean, I went back home. You know, I started not going to school again. I got put in like another observation. I didn't go to school there. I got put into like an actual, because at that point, obviously, it's already been like a year, and like it becomes a bigger problem than not going to school for a few weeks. I basically didn't go to school for like a solid year. So I got put into like a 3-month program of like, I'm not sure what the English name. I guess I could just call it a mental institution, for like other people with like mental problems, whether it's be like an extreme case of autism, or like just extreme case of like other like mental issues. I don't know what to call it necessarily. But it would be like a 3-month, once again like a 1-month observation and like a 2-month treatment after that. And that's where I went to school. It's like a hospital school, they called it. Where basically like you get your books from school, your teacher give you assignments from your actual school that you went to, and you would have to complete them at your own like pace. So I basically like, because that was back in May when the school period started, like in that 2-month period, I did all the assignments that my classmates from September up until May. So I did like, in that 2-month period, I basically did like majority of my year on my own with like my text, which again, I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. And like I basically was able to do my exams a few months later in June, and I passed my exams for that year. And I like somehow magically, I'm sure there was some help from teachers as well that said like some questions they were like, okay, he didn't say it. Like I managed to actually get like a 60% of my exam for that year and actually go through my year, which is like kind of crazy. Like to be able to do my entire year in like a 2-month period of like studying on my own. Granted, it was every day for several hours, but it's like, so obviously very grateful to those people working at the hospital school and my teachers that I was able to do that. But after that, I went back home. Same again, I tried to go to school. Like there was like a build-up between that place and going back to school where I would do like 50-50. I would still be there, but I would go from school to there. After school, I would go home. From home, I would go to school. Then after school, I would go back to the institution, and then repeat that for like several weeks to like try and build up like a process from going to that institution back to home.
Yeah,
as it would become more home, less institution.
They tried to rehabilitate you back into kind of normalized society.
Yeah. So I did that for a few months. Then I went back to. Then I came home, and I went to school for several months, like normally. Finished that year properly, and then the next September again, I just couldn't do it anymore. Like for some reason, during a 2-month vacation break, I just couldn't. Like I got those stomach pains again. Like, yeah, I don't know.
So one of the things that I kind of was wondering is it doesn't sound like you were in school very much, so you must have not had really any friends in school. Was school something that was hard for you in that, and the social aspect was like seeing or talking to people in the social aspect? Because it sounds like you pretty much removed yourself all except for online gaming, which is a very, very different social aspect and approach that you tend to take with people online, because it feels a lot more comfortable, in my opinion. That it's a lot easier to talk to people online than it generally is to talk to people or deal with people in school in person. At least that was always my experience. I much prefer talking to people online because it felt like they understood me, they got me, they were friends with me, they cared about me. Whereas school for me didn't ever really feel like that. So what was the social aspect of school like for you?
It was because I went to 3 different schools overall throughout all those years. The one school, because I mean they had so much issues with me not going to school. They kind of just said after 1 year, like, maybe it's better that you go look for another school. Mm-hmm. But that school, even though I went so little, I actually had like a really good group of friends. Even though I would come like, I don't know, I'd say once, like a few days every 2 weeks, I would still have left like a really good group of friends. I mean, obviously I wasn't as close to them as they were to each other. Yeah. Because I mean, they just didn't speak to me as much because I mean, I simply wasn't there. But I was really close to them. Whenever I would go to school, I would be in good contact with them. Because I wasn't really open about what I went through at home. So it's not like that was ever a factor in like making it different from other people. Like I'm good with social interaction. I don't really have any trouble with that. I don't have any trouble with any contact, social contact with anyone. So it's like I had a pretty easy time getting friends. It's just that I never really grew close to someone because the lack of contact. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I had like different friends groups, but I just never really got close to it. So
yeah, because when I'm thinking back of it, like that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to go to school. Because I didn't really have friends there, and so there was no reason for me to ever go there. It's like my whole thought process going through most high schools, I need to get out of here as fast as I can so I can escape from everything. Because that's the fastest way for me in my logical 12-year-old mind to get away from all the shit that is going on is if I graduate early, I can leave early. Which was a very interesting thought process. It didn't work out quite how I thought it would, but it's kind of what I decided to do. But like when I got later on into high school and I started to lived with my dad, there was actually I liked going to school because there was people who I wanted to see. But if I had never had those, I imagine that I would never have wanted to go. So I was wondering if you had ever come to figure out what was the issue for going to school. What was it that caused so much stress and you to feel in such pain? Did you ever figure that out?
No, which is the weird thing. Like, I mean, I went to plenty of doctors, obviously. Throughout the years, I've had a lot of contact with like psychologists, like a lot of different ones. Even like I think 2 psychiatrists, like 2 different ones, and then several psychologists. Because it's like all the different institutions. Obviously, I had to go to certain ones, and it's like, I mean, they all knew what the problem was, and like acknowledged like obviously you have issues going to school, and you obviously have those pains, but they never were able to figure out. Because I mean, I wasn't getting bullied at school. I had friends. I had a really easy time like in class. I really liked all my teachers. There was not really a teacher that was like, I hate that guy specifically. So it was like, it seemed like everything lined up to be like good for me. And I never even found out myself, which is like very confusing. I don't think about it much nowadays because it's not a part of my life right now.
You don't have to.
So I never like actively, so I don't actively look anymore. Like, why was that an issue at the time? But at the time, it was very frustrating because I mean, I remember for my, I don't know exactly which birthday, but I literally just wished to be a normal guy going to school. Because it was like I would obviously skip those periods. My friends would ask like, why were you not here at school? And I would basically just have to, I mean, twist the truth, I guess, sort of lying. Because I mean, I didn't really want to say what was going on at home, or it was hard to explain to a bunch of 14 or 15-year-olds why I'm not going to school and why it is because of stress in my stomach. So I kind of just made up things that made it seem okay, or like made it easier to understand. And I mean, they didn't look too much into it, luckily. But yeah, it was never really. Yeah, I don't know. I'd never figured out why.
Because that would have been my first thought too. Is like maybe like there was something going on at school that he didn't want to, if he got picked on or stuff like that. But I mean, you also went through a ton of mornings where every morning you woke up and the thought of your dad not being around was there. And I can't imagine the amount of stress that would put on the rest of your. And that went on for years, right? Like,
but that was like mainly the period when both my parents were living at home.
Yeah.
But like when I was in those years where I woke up in the morning and like those stomach problems, it was mainly after I started living alone with my mom. So it wasn't, I mean, I was kind of separated from my dad, and those fights became like a lot less frequent, obviously, because we didn't live together and I wasn't in contact with my dad. And after he moved alone, there wasn't really any more scenarios where I had to worry for his life. It was mainly like he functioned a lot better because there was a lot more triggers. I mean, you have 3 annoying kids running around. I'm sure there was a lot for him to be annoyed about. Or even like a bad day at work. He worked in customer support for like an IT firm. So he had like, if someone makes a dumb mistake, he had to go fix it. So I imagine there was like a lot of annoyance coming from work.
Yeah.
Like I always compared it to like a bucket of water that would like nearly run over every time I came at work. I mean, you only had to pour like a very little bit of water in it for it to like completely.
Overboard.
Yeah. So it was like very tricky for us. But once he got in that scenario where he lived alone and didn't have much triggers from like other people or anything surrounding him, like once he came home from work, he could just calm down and do whatever he wanted. And like him controlling his emotions became a lot easier for him, I think.
So growing up, something that I had to deal with is because of the dynamic with my my mother and my stepdad. When I ended up moving and finally getting away from that, I had a lot of resentment towards her for a long time. It took me a long time to kind of get over this resentment of, wow, my life would have been so much better if you would have just been like a good mom. And I imagine growing up, especially being young, I could see, I wouldn't be surprised if, I'm wondering if you had some of those similar thoughts. Like, wow, I'm just so resentful. I just want you guys to be my parents. Because I imagine a lot of people would.
I think it was a different scenario for us because that's why I'm coming back to the 5 years old.
Yeah.
Because being 5 years old, your dad becomes very important. Like around that period, a lot of young kids look up to their dad.
Yeah.
And obviously, together with the accident, I didn't see him for several weeks, or at least not nearly as frequent. I would go to the hospital, obviously, but I wouldn't have him like in my day-to-day life, or even afterwards. Like my day-to-day life wouldn't really consist. Like he wouldn't really do the dad role, I guess, sort of.
Yeah.
He would just be in arguments. So I never really knew my dad pre-5, and then after 5, it was like for me to think like, because he's a different person. Like all my family, like my older brothers and my mom, can compare him to something they saw before the accident. It's something I still struggle with, or I can vocally say it now. Like I have trouble seeing him as a different person. Like to me, he is this person that can't control his emotion.
Yeah,
it can be very hurtful to other people. To them, I mean, I don't know what he looks like. You know, as far as I'm aware, what they tell me, he was a very sweet person that cared a lot about people. Like very smart and forgiving, and that's like, I mean, a completely different view from what I have from him. So it's like, I can't compare to what my dad was pre-accident compared to what he is today. And I have a very hard time with that. Because it's like, I know it's not something he can control. I know the accident wasn't his fault. I mean, do I blame the person that drove into his bike? No, I mean, shit happens on the road. Like, I'm not going to fault someone for life for making a mistake. Obviously, it had a lot of impact in my life. Like, it's a very hard line to draw between, like, till this day, like, he's my dad. I'm not gonna say like, oh, you're not my dad even after all. He's my dad, and I still love him. It's my dad, but at the same time, I don't want to be around him either because I don't know what happens. I don't know how mad he's gonna get at a given time. Like, and it's not something he can control or has control over. So it's not like I'm mad at him. I'm like mad at the frontal brain lobe, sort of. You know, like it's not. Yeah, him as a person, I'm not mad at, but it's like at the same time, I don't want to be around him. Person. You
make sure to set healthy boundaries to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of the situation is something that it just is. I mean, there's no way kind of around it. It just is what the situation kind of is. I can understand that. It kind of leads me to a next question that I had for you is: have you, to some degree, mended that relationship at this point? Has it something that is improved over the years, or is it still very distant because you need to for your safety?
It's been up and down. Like, it's after I made the decision to not go to him anymore. Like, I mean, anything IT related, like if I want to build a new computer, I'll still do it with him. Because I mean, he's very smart in that field, you know. Like, I mean, he knows a lot more about me, knows a lot more about that field than I do. So like, if I want to build a PC, like I do take that quality time with him. But it's only for like very short periods. There's even a time where every year for like Christmas, we would go to his place, have like a family dinner with him, me and my 3 brothers, and him. And for like very short periods of time being with him, it can be a good time. It's not like, that's a weird part as well, like, but I just don't want to spend extended period with him anymore. So like, going out to dinner with him is fine. Going out to like build a PC with him, I buy the parts, he comes build it in our house, that's fine. Like, that was fine for a while, but after that, I mean, throughout that period, I had like mentally a very hard time, and I never really got anything for it. I mean, I talked to a lot of psychologists and stuff, but a few years ago, 2 years or 3 years ago by now, I mean, I just had another emotional like breakdown because things were still so rough. I basically got put on medication by a doctor, so I took down like antidepressants for like 2-ish years. Because I mean, I had just a hard time. I was like, and as a kid, they never want to give you stuff because you're obviously still developing.
Yeah.
And they don't like interfere with that process in any way. Because obviously it's strong medication and it changes the way you feel. So once I was a bit older, they were okay giving it to me. So I was on that for a while. And during that period, it was like I was a lot less. I was a lot better, but also started seeing another psychologist. Actually, one of the only first psychologists where I had like a click with.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are watching, if they've ever gone to a psychologist. But for me personally, having to open yourself to someone is like very, I guess, hit or miss. Like there's people that I've talked to, and they might be the best psychologist in Belgium, but if I didn't have a click with them, I wouldn't like okay talking to them. Or, like I didn't feel comfortable talking to them. I think it's very important to find someone that you're like comfortable with. And like I think a few years ago, I found my psychologist that I'm comfortable talking to, and it was like I started talking with her. I started doing some like traumatic, like working about traumas that I had from earlier.
Post-traumatic stress disorder work, stuff related towards that, yeah.
Yeah. Because obviously being in contact with my dad, I would still be reminded of those periods. So I was obviously talking about all that kind of stuff. And she basically said like, because I mentioned to her how stressful it is for me to still go to my dad, like even those short periods. I mean, it's stressful. I know they can be okay at times, but generally they're still very stressful for me. And it's like, at one point I was like, I don't want to go anymore. But my mom, because she's like, he's still your dad. Even throughout all those years, like she pushed us to go to her dad because she knew, I mean, she's a single mother raising us, but at the same time, you don't make a baby with only one person, you know, he's still our dad, and she found it very important to still keep contact with him. Sort of forced it even. Like she pushed for those weekends as well to go to her dad. Because she doesn't want us to lose contact with him. Because she still knows him as a good person. So, but at a certain point, I talked with my psychologist. I said, like, this is too stressful for me. I don't want to do this anymore. And for the past 2-3 years, I've cut down on contact with him because it's like a still very stressful situation for me. But he doesn't feel that same way. Like he doesn't still. I mean, again, he like doesn't realize why I'm stressed.
Yeah.
Even if we've obviously worded it to him differently for 100 times already, and he still doesn't realize why there was a divorce, why there was like so much stress. So he has a very hard time understanding that, to like a point where I basically ignored him for 2 years. But it's funnily enough because my mom was talking to him, because he still calls with her like at random times for, I don't know, because he needs that social contact, I guess. And my mom mentioned that I'm moving to Montreal now, obviously with my new team. And the morning I left, because I guess my mom told the airplane info, he would like text me a message like, because I played my official the day before. He's like, hey, I saw you tried really hard in that match. I'm not sure what the point of Overwatch is, but you gave them a hard run. I said like, have a safe flight. And I mean, normally I would have ignored that, but I'm like, I mean, he takes time out of his day, like it's 5 a.m. in the morning to send me a message like that. I'll just give him a response. I feel like that's like the least thing I can do. Like I don't just want to ignore a person, because obviously I don't hate him. Like it's just something for my own well-being. I've avoided him. I obviously don't hate him at all, so I just send him a message back and I said thank you and hope you. I don't know exactly what I said anymore. Yeah. I basically just responded like a sweet message to him. I mean, that felt good. And to like, I guess, widen the gap of contact, like from fully ignoring him for a while to like building like a very safe but like distant contact.
You're slowly figuring out what you feel comfortable with giving, and underneath your terms, and what you're comfortable with handling, which makes complete sense. That makes. I will jump back to the therapist thing. I think that what I've always told people is finding the right therapist is like finding a correct pair of jeans. Okay, you can go to a store and you can find a brand and you can put on that brand and it doesn't fit. Okay, and you need to try on a different size. Okay, that's very much how therapists are. You need to try them out and make sure that they work. I would say give any therapist their fair shot at working with you, but if it doesn't work out, you should not stick with something just because someone says that they're the best. Yeah, you should find what works for you 100%. That is what my firm has recommended to people that they should do. it just depends on what works for different people. Certain style, like therapists have very, very different styles.
Yeah, for sure.
And that is an important distinction in what people kind of need. So find something that works for you. Just the one caveat I will say is make sure that you're not lying to yourself. Because a lot of people tend to do that where they're like, I actually don't want to work on this. So they try to find excuses for not working on things. But if you give your fair shot and it doesn't work, find someone else.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
Find someone else. Because I think that's an important thing.
A therapist, I mean, you're there to help yourself, right? That therapist has plenty of other clients. So they don't care if you don't pick them. Like, there's plenty of people that they're able to help. It's better for you to find the right help. Be with a person that might be, I mean, obviously, therapists graduate and they're good at their job. But they just might not be your style, might not be your type.
Yes. I'm telling you, some are not. I've worked in mental health a long time, so I've seen a lot of really shitty therapists.
Some of them might be questionable, but find a qualified, good person at their job, and if you have a click with them,
So I think that's a really powerful thing that you went into therapy and that you did that. I think that's something that other people should realize. If you have issues, you should work on them. Please, God, for you out there in the world, work on them because it's just the best thing that's going to be for you. Like, really, it is. It'll help you in the rest of your life. So, and I think that's an important thing, and that's really powerful that you did that. And I really. I'm happy that you were comfortable enough sharing that because it takes a lot of courage to be able to kind of talk about some of that stuff. So going through school is rough for most of the time. But one of the things you mentioned in that article is when you were 17, your anxiety kind of returned and you ended up being put in a juvenile detention center.
Yes.
What was the story behind that? What happened?
So it was back in a period where I didn't go to school. That combined with the many years of not going to school, and them being like, hey, you're just skipping school to play video games, or hey, you're skipping school without like an actual like medical reason, because like the chronic pain disorder thing, like not necessarily an actual disease, it's more like mentally a thing. So it's like they don't see it as like a medical reason, like the flu or like it's very, very different on the scale of being ill to them. So they don't see it as much as that. So they basically just said at one point, like, listen, you're 17, you have to go to school legally till you're 18. You've had enough chances, we're going to put you in, like, child juvenation, you call it, right? Is that the name for it?
Juvenile detention.
Juvenile detention. And it was like, in Belgium, there's still some few other institutions, like mental institutions I went to throughout my entire period. I'm not going to mention all of them, because it's like 5 or 6 different ones, but, I mean, the point of them is basically the same. But that one is like very different because it was like, that was for actual, like, in Belgium there's like 2 big juvenile detention. One of them is for like really, really dangerous people or like dangerous youth that actually committed like
violent acts.
Yeah, actual violent acts. The one I went to was for teenagers that were like, like doing the small crimes, I guess, sort of like. It would be like throwing weed, shoplifting, So mainly that stuff. And I went there for not going to school. So obviously,
is another one.
I was a whole different kind of person than most of the people there. That was even like it literally felt like a jail. The first day I got there was you get locked in a room for like 24 hours, I think. Obviously you have nothing. You have just a bed and a toilet. And that's that for 24 hours. They bring food to your room. Like, you're not allowed to have social contact with anyone. And after that, you get put into like, after 24 hours, you stay in the same like department of the juvenile detention. But you get a bit more freedom within that wing. You have like a chill room, just talk to people in general for like I think 12 hours a day, like that. And after like a 2-week period, you get put in like an actual different wing of the like juvenile detention, and I got put in I got put in one of the wings, which is like a 3-month observation. Well, I think it's just like 3-month observation generally, where you basically go to school in house, but I was like surrounded with like people who obviously did those small crimes. It was like very, very, very different people than I would personally surround myself with. Obviously, I had no control over this one. But I mean, I treated them, because what I noticed about most of them, it's like when you put them in a scenario where they're surrounded by people that do those things, they become much worse than they actually are. Like, they generally get put in an environment which is very toxic to them. and can be very, very damaging to them.
Yep.
Like they get
makes it worse.
like influenced. They get influenced in a very, very bad way. Like most of those guys that were in there, yeah, they might have sold like drugs, they might have like shoplifted something, but they were like really, really nice people. And I was like, I mean, I had a good contact with them. Obviously, like some of them had like aggression issues and like things like that, but they weren't aggressive there. But like behavior-wise, I was by far like the most polite and like normal dude out there, I guess. So I was like, I had no problem there with like the people that control the wing. I don't know what to call them, like the people that treat us on a daily basis. Like I don't know what the English name.
The staff workers are
the staff that was there. Let's just call them that. I'm not exactly sure what the name is, but the staff that worked daily around us, like that brought us to like the school, that brought us to like therapy if someone wanted it.
Your care workers.
Care workers. I mean, they were all super nice. I was like an easy job for them, right? Because I mean, I was basically just there for them. They literally told me they would. I think you had like 15 people in like one department with you, and they wanted 15 people like me because they would have like a free job. So you would have like an attitude card every day on how your attitude was on like school, within like the normal life group, and like some other thing. And I would basically just get like the same mark every day. Like I would have the best mark possible. I didn't have any issues. But yeah, it was like I had a pretty time integrating with those people. Again, like I think I have the social skills to go by with most groups. So like even if I didn't smoke, I would go outside with them, like just to hang out. I mean, personally, I would have just sat inside, but I really asked that group of people. Like it's very important that you just be with them with most things. So I mean, I'm kind of a person that like observes situations a bit and then like goes with the flow, kind of. So I had like a really good contact with everyone within the life group. They were all nice people on their own. Obviously, if you put them outside in a scenario, they probably would have been. I probably would have never met them. But I truly met some nice people there. I mean, it surprised me, but I learned a lot.
I mean, I used to work in a jail with a lot of people who were in for drugs and stealing and crimes like that. And that is the one thing that I've learned is working with people who are drug addicts and stuff like that, is that normally it's not, the person themselves is not a bad person. They do a lot of really bad things sometimes. They do a lot of really stupid things. They do a lot of really unhealthy things, but they themselves are not bad people. Which is an interesting thing to kind of learn at such a young age. And a lot of people don't learn it ever, that, hey, sometimes people do some really bad things, but that doesn't mean that they're bad people inside. Like
from the ground up, they're not like, they don't get born a terrible human being, you know. They might go through some bad stuff. Like, you don't know what they went through. Like, I mean, some of those people, their parents were like already drug dealers, and I'm like, I mean, it's pretty easy as a kid to fall into that as well. Yeah. Like, you don't have much control over.
If they were doing drugs, most likely their parents did drugs. Yeah. Or someone who was close in their family was doing drugs.
Or they're like okay with it. Like it's just like, yeah, just put it more in like reality of what the world is. Because I'm gonna be honest, I had a pretty normal childhood regardless of my problems at home. Right? Yeah. I hung around with most people that had like a normal lives, like mid-class like people in Belgium. So I didn't really get confronted with anything bad. I didn't get confronted with any like issues really at all. Yeah. But obviously going there like opened my eyes a lot with like I guess what the real world holds for other people. So I luckily enough, my other issues were obviously different than most people. Yeah. But in general, like I didn't have any monetary issues. I didn't have any social issues. I didn't have any like parents that had addictions or anything like that. So I'm very grateful for that. Looking back on what some other people had.
When you were there, you kind of mentioned that it felt like jail, and I worked at a place that sounds very similar actually, much smaller, but like when I was just finishing college, and one of the things that I happen to notice there, and it doesn't sound like this really happened to you, is the people who did really well, a lot of times the other people would try to bring them down, just because they weren't. It was so opposite of what the other group was. Right. But it sounds like you kind of made up for that by trying to like hang out with them and stuff still. Did you ever have any issues in there where you felt like where you didn't feel like part of the group because you were doing everything that you were told to do?
Not necessarily, honestly. Okay. I don't feel like they were trying to take me down at all. Like, I mean, they obviously knew. I mean, you're not supposed to talk why you're there, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean,
everyone
you're youth,
does.
obviously. Like
Everyone
obviously,
does.
you know, like
Everyone does.
within the eyes, everyone knows why everyone's there, right? That's
Yeah.
not, you know. So everyone knew I was there for skipping school, and they're like, "Why the hell are you here? Like, you're a good guy, you know, you do really well in school, and like you're doing good in everything." And I'm like, I mean, obviously, I didn't go to school. That's why I'm here. So it was kind of weird because I wasn't there for like not petty, like minor criminal things.
Yeah.
So I was a lot different to them, but I didn't really feel like they were bringing me down at all. If anything, I felt like I was helping because they were actually really curious. And, I mean, even in school, I could help them out. If they didn't understand something, I had like a pretty easy time explaining it to them. So I feel like, I don't know, I feel like there was like a lot of mutual respect with both the sides there.
And you finished school in this center, right?
I finished my year, yeah. I finished my fifth out of 6 total years.
Okay. What did you do for your last year of school?
I went pro. So I didn't actually finish my education.
Okay.
After I got out of there, I was like, because during the entire periods of time, I played a lot of games. I always had an easy time picking up games and playing like at a really high level, even for the limited time I got to spend with it. Because obviously, in any of the facilities I went, I didn't have a gaming PC, which is, I mean, given.
Yeah.
But once I got back home, you know, Overwatch was really big. I was playing just ladder. I got picked up by like a small team before. Got picked up by Esports, and eventually got picked up by Movistar Riders in 2017, early January. So that's like the September before was the start of my 6th year normally.
Mm-hmm.
But that obviously didn't go as planned as well. So I just sat home playing Overwatch with Mousesports, and then I got picked up by Movistar Riders. I moved to Spain in early 2017. And then from there on, it just kind of begun my career as an Overwatch player. So yeah.
Okay. So I do want to delve a little bit into your Overwatch career because you also have kind of a unique Overwatch career. We're gonna hit on it briefly. Otherwise, I could never post this on the Overwatch thread because they wouldn't be like, he doesn't talk about Overwatch at all.
It's not related to Overwatch, yeah.
Yeah, like so we're gonna talk a little bit, and I want to ask you some questions because there's some things that obviously I'm an outsider looking in. I'm a little bit more in than maybe some other people because I obviously worked with Gladiators and we got to see each other last year quite a bit in between games and stuff like that. And so like you hear things. Obviously the first thing I want to ask you is when you went to Spain, was that the first time leaving the country?
Alone, yes. In general, no. We went on vacations when we were younger with our parents. Like we went to Turkey, France, like the south of France. We went to Italy. I mean, we went several places as kids. It wasn't my first time on an airplane, but it was my first time moving to a different country alone. So it was definitely exciting.
Okay. What was Spain like for you? I can't imagine. Like, honestly, I'm thinking like, wow, if I was 18, 19 and I got to leave the country and live in a different country for a while, that sounds like amazing to me.
Yeah.
What was it like for you? Because they were also paying you too. So they like,
yeah, that was the first like really big step. I mean, the first team that I got picked up from the ladder was a team called Evox. An unsigned team. Right? Yeah. Quite frankly, weren't that good. I even got kicked from that team because I was too bad at it. I got replaced by Nesh, which is actually another Overwatch. He sadly retired now. That's funny, actually, thinking about it. Nesh was my replacement. But later on, I got picked up by Mousesports, which was like obviously an organization behind me. But I mean, it was like very, very much part-time. We didn't get much pay, but we did play a lot of Overwatch. And then my next big thing was obviously Movistar Riders, you know. Like the step between Mousesports playing online for like a couple of €100 to moving to Spain in a gaming house with like a proper salary on top of that, like no expenses, just having like my full salary for it to being saved, was like a very big step. I mean, it was honestly amazing. Obviously, like I came from a very dark past with everything happening, and it felt like throughout the thing where gaming was kind of just an escape. Because I mean, I don't have a degree. I don't really have anything to fall back on right now. So it was kind of like, okay, this gaming thing has to work. And that felt like the first step where like, okay, this could be like a thing that I do for the next few years and build up some money, you know? So Spain was definitely like the first step in like making that a thing and like making it like official. Like, okay, I actually might have a good career in this path of gaming with Overwatch. But yeah, obviously moving there, you know, just 5 random dudes that you've never met before in a gaming house. I mean, all the guys were super cool. I miss them a lot actually still. But Spain, yeah, it was really awesome. There's not much more else to it.
I mentioned awesome. I won't lie when I hear about like 5 guys, random guys living in a game house. It reminds me of when I lived in a frat house, because I'm almost willing to bet that is pretty much like the house was just dirty all the time.
Yeah.
Wasn't, yeah. Clothes everywhere.
It was pretty bad.
Dishes, yeah.
I would be, after living in several houses, that was probably the worst house I ever lived. Because it was like, we were all there for the first time. We didn't really take care of ourselves as like a normal adult should. I mean, you're kind of enjoying it more than you care, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm out the country to play games. Like, that's just a crazy concept. Yeah, there was definitely more laundry on the floor than there should, and some, like, trash bags in the living room there should be. So, yeah, there's definitely some questionable stuff.
Yeah. Excuse me. So, you obviously moved from there. Movie Star Riders. You get picked up by Misfits later on. Yes. What was that like when you got picked up with Misfits?
So, Movistar Riders was really a fantastic organization.
Yeah.
They tried to get an Overwatch League. And they were in contact with Blizzard, as far as I understand. I mean, as any other org was in contact with Blizzard, but I think they actually had the backing from Movistar to actually potentially get in. So I was like, I wasn't too worried that they weren't going to get in, but obviously it turned out they didn't.
Yeah.
Played like a small local Spanish LAN. We won that, and afterwards we got the news like, okay guys, we're going to have to drop the Overwatch team. It's currently just not worth for us, obviously, because they would only stay in tier 2. It wouldn't be worth for them to keep supporting it. Obviously, giving us a good salary, a gaming house, like, I mean, that's a lot of investment for a tier 2 team. And luckily, during that time, I had a pretty easy time getting on Misfits, because Misfits was already looking to sign with Swoosh, which was my teammate on Movistar Riders. And he kind of just asked, well, they asked Swoosh pretty sure, like, just kind of like, hey, could that guy hop along real quick? And I'm like, hell yeah, I mean, I don't have a team right now. Misfits is a very respected organization. Obviously some of the best EU players at the time. Like, that was an easy I'll sign a contract. I don't care. Like, that was like, yeah. So that transition was like really easily. I mean, obviously we did a very good run online.
Yeah.
27-0 or 27-1. We lost one map in like the entire online qualifiers of season 0 of, was it season 0 or season 1 of Contenders? I'm not exactly sure anymore. But we did like a really good online run, got to the LAN, barely won against Cloud9, and then lost to Gigante in the final. So our online run was nothing compared to our offline run. Our offline run was nothing compared to our online run, sorry.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, as much as people think or say we choke, I think it's a combination of factors. I mean, it's 5 dudes. We play on a LAN environment for the first time. I think it became obvious with OWL that a team is a lot different on stage than they are in a practice environment. It was very hard for people, especially when a game is new, or that they might not have the best experience yet, for them to be like in the same mental state during practice than they are on stage. So most teams will have like a very different environment during like an official game, even online, compared to in their practice. So I think that became very apparent, especially with the added crowd, or not even crowd, with the added just like cameras and lighting and just playing on a stage together against the enemy team. So that became a lot more real. So obviously, I mean, you live and you learn. That was not a good run by us. We expected to win the entire thing pretty convincingly after our online run. But that kind of just left us into an area where we were literally crushed online and like played semi-okay. I mean, we got second. It's not terrible, obviously, but it didn't...
Not the worst thing you could do.
Yeah,
I mean,
so it's not
But whenever you take second, it's almost like, wow, I was so close to taking first.
Exactly.
So
no one really remembers second. You know, you go for first place, or feels like kind of, especially after you're on that run again. We got second there. Obviously, Misfits was an organization that actually got an OWL spot.
Yes, they did.
So so that was good. I mean, that was, thinking about it, too easy to get into OWL. I mean, it was quite literally, hey, we believe in you guys. We'll sign you to OWL. Turns out you can't just kind of do that in Overwatch League, and it turned out pretty badly because we didn't really add any players, we didn't really add any support staff, because I think we believe too much in ourselves, which can be dangerous as well. I think going into Owl, we personally had the opinion that we could be like a middle of the pack team of the first 12 teams. And like maybe add some new players within like half the season. Be like get the extra hop up in the rankings maybe. Obviously that turned out to be differently throughout the season. A lot of struggles, obviously counting a lot on that synergy that we had as a team. We get like an early lead on people. That turned out to be completely different. And yeah, just a lot of problems within the organization, I would say.
Yeah, and I kind of want to ask you some questions. I know you can't probably talk a ton about it, and that's understandable. I know that being on Gladiators, whenever we would play you guys, we were fucking terrified of playing you guys. Even though I think we won every game we played against you.
Yeah.
But like every time it was like, is this the time we lose to Mayhem? Because we never knew what you guys were gonna do. Like some games you would come out and it would be like, oh my, like there was a couple. I think we had 2 Game 5s, and we were like, Jesus. I know we had at least one because I remember being like, "Oh my God, we're gonna lose! We're gonna lose! Like, what are we gonna do? How am I gonna handle my players after they lose here? Like, what am I?" So I definitely remember some. Yeah, like how am I gonna work them through this so we can play our next game in 2 days? But so like we were definitely scared about playing you guys. Because like sometimes you guys would just pop off, but then like you said, you kind of had a hard time closing out a lot of wins. Yeah. So my first question starting this off, the kind of like Mayhem run of questions that I have. When did you guys know that you had a major problem? By what was it at the end of stage 1? Because you guys didn't add people, you didn't add that many people, and some people would have said your ads were kind of questionable. So at what point did you guys realize, oh shit, we have a major problem, we need to change something?
I'm not entirely sure when that came through, honestly. I think it must have been in stage 1, honestly. Like, I mean, obviously you expect to start the league with, I mean, you have a 6-man roster, like, quite frankly, you played for months together, you expect synergy to carry you. You expect, I mean, I'd say we're all mechanically strong players. I mean, we were definitely considered the better, like, one of the best teams in Europe, obviously, placing second in contenders. And there were obvious flaws after the LAN stage, I think, that people noticed. But that was nothing that we didn't feel like we could fix. So we obviously had our higher hopes for Owl. But I mean, it must have been somewhere in stage 1 of Owl where we were like, okay, maybe we need some backup from different players, you know, get some fresh blood in. Because I mean, quite frankly, when you play in a team for several months, things can get stale, and that's not necessarily bad. For some teams, it works. But I think it's very good for a team to add fresh blood and just add like an extra personality to the team to like wind things back up again, you know, to get a fresh start, sort of. Which obviously we tried the mid-season pickups, but I don't think that solved the bigger issues within the team. I mean, as much as I don't think we were the best players in each role by any means, I don't think talent was necessarily the biggest issue with Mayhem. I think there were other factors, like I think Mineral is a fantastic coach as a strategic coach. He knows a lot about the game. He's very smart about bringing it to us. But he did mainly like minor interferences between like scrims, saying like after map, like, hey guys, you could have done this better, or for this map we'll play this sort of differently. But I think personally, I think we really like a head coach. Yes, he had the title of a head coach, but I don't feel like Mineral was really set to be like someone who like checks up on people, if that makes sense. I'm not saying he doesn't care about people, but he doesn't check up on people and doesn't make his job to see how people are doing every day, day in, day out, you know, like
but
that sort of stuff.
Ideally, when you have a head coach, they has a bunch of coaches underneath them, and they
exactly.
So like if you look at like Gladiators, we had me, Tim, even Kez was doing some work with like the Korean players, and I was responsible for all the mental for related to Gladiators, and that was my job. Is I'm gonna check on these players every week. I'm gonna check on them after losses, after wins, see how they're doing, how they were playing during a game, and so that was like primarily what my job was, and that is a job in and itself. Right, like being able to handle that. You can't expect one person to handle that strategic, figuring out like other things. And I would say that we were kind of understaffed at Gladiators too. We weren't as understaffed as you guys were, which kind of brings me to my next question. Why were you guys so understaffed? Like, is it something that I could understand like the first couple stages, Okay, but staff is something you can also bring in throughout the entire year. That's not something
there's no signing window.
There's no signing window.
You can sign staff stage 1, week 3. You know, there's no limit on when you can sign staff or how you can sign them. So it's like, I'd be lying if I said I knew the reason. Like, I don't know the inner workings of Mayhem that well. I don't know if it was budget, if it was just them not realizing it. I don't know if it was...
Was it something you had brought up? Was it something that you had brought up? Like, hey, we need more coaches probably to help you.
I think it became more apparent after the first stage. I don't think it's something we asked for pre-stage 1.
Okay.
If I'm truthfully honest. It became apparent that Mineral was... I mean, there was a load on this guy. Like,
yeah.
It's... As much as you can fault him for not maybe keeping up with the players as much as possible, I'm not mad at him for not doing that. I mean, it's the Overwatch League. You have a game every week. You have to, like,
2 games every week. 2 games every week.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, 2 games every week. You have to prepare for 2 different teams, sometimes extremely different playstyles. You have to get your players strategically ready, and then you can't have to drop the ball on everything else, like mentally, physically, like all those different fields that you can get players ready on. Like, even like a cook at the time, like we didn't have cook, we have to make our own food after scrims. Like, he didn't keep us. I mean, some teams have like trainers, personal trainers, like have chefs now. They have, like, as you said, Gladiators obviously had you to keep their mental in check. So it's like, I think there's very different fields that you kind of need staff for, that you need to check up, and obviously Mayhem had a big lack of that in season 1.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So the reason I ask these questions is because I don't know if you're following the Overwatch League. I'm assuming you are.
Yeah,
I'd be very surprised if you were, and I might question that in itself. But Mayhem right now is not. They're not doing well.
No.
In fact, it is very, very reminiscent of last year. And it doesn't. Like, I see that, and looking from I am completely outside now, looking in. I'm not at the facility. Obviously, I'm in the lovely state of Michigan, where it is fucking snowing all the time. So if anyone wants to fly me out to California to do some work, I'm free for it. That being said, looking on the outside, it looks like it's the same thing. Now, they've changed almost the entire roster. None of the players who was there last year, they got an entire new roster in, except for a couple people. And looking on the outside in, because this is obviously, I don't know how much you know about there. It seems like the same thing is happening. I don't know if supposedly they have coaches. They got rid of Ryder, which Swoosh has already come out and said that Ryder was functionally useless. I don't know whether or not you agree with that. But Swoosh had very, very strong opinions on that. So they got rid of him. They brought Promise in to do some assistant coaching, so he kind of took over that assistant coaching role. But it seems like the issues are still there. So this, coming from the outside, my question to you is, Mayhem have a management problem? Does Mayhem have a coaching problem? Does Mayhem have a player problem? Because it seems like nothing has changed.
Yeah, that's a very loaded question. I think it's hard to just point the finger at one person.
Yeah.
I think it can range from the top down all the way to the bottom. I don't think they picked up the most skilled players in the league, quite frankly. I think they picked up some people that could be, like, workable in Overwatch League, obviously. I mean, they obviously kept the Vic Saya player, an Awesome Guy, or SNT now. Like, I think Awesome Guy, it was very average last season compared to Swoosh. I think they matched out each other. Maybe, like, different playstyle could have changed it up a bit. But I mean, obviously, Saya player is one of the top Widows. For me personally, the best in the world. I had absolutely no problem with being benched for him, because, I mean, he's someone I still look up to this day. Yeah, so, I mean, that was obviously an insane pickup for Mayhem. And to Vic, I mean, he's a very flexible person. As much hate as he gets, I think there was a lot more issues than him maybe not playing as well as he did before. I think Vic's always gotten praise, though, from most people. Yeah. Most people have given Vic praise as being one of the good players on that team. Yeah. I think he did get a lot of unwarranted flack last season. But I don't think anyone can look amazing in a bad team. Or at least it's very, very hard. I mean, Cyber is one of the people that, you know, you see the meme where he gets like 4 kills and still somehow loses the fight.
Yeah.
He definitely got the bad stick for that. But yeah, it's like, we had a general manager at the beginning of one, whom we didn't feel did his job too well. But later on, Matthew Akafan became the general manager for our team, and he's a guy that like cares a lot about it. Like Matt is like an incredible person. He did pretty much anything you asked him for as a player. Like even the smallest things that could make your day easier, he would go out of his way to do for you. Like he's an incredible general manager that does like anything for the team possible. I think the biggest part of Mayhem's problem last season, and I'm not sure about this season. I don't really want to speak bad of them because I personally don't really know what their coaching structure is right now, so I can't give too much insight into it. But obviously, Mineral was a very strategic coach, didn't focus on much else, and then we brought in Ryder. When we learned that Ryder was going to come, the moment I knew personally, I called Matt, messaged, don't remember what's from either way. I told him we need a translator. Like, there's no disrespect to Ryder, but coming through from Korea, an English-speaking team, as much as you practice it maybe online, I think you still will have a very hard time interacting on a day-to-day basis, even with foreign players. Like, we had a few Europeans, or like all Europeans.
Yeah.
It was going to be hard, especially because English, we knew beforehand that was like okay, but to have like in-depth conversation about the game, you need more than just okay.
Yeah.
So we messaged them. Ryder arrives like stage 3, I think, or end of stage 2, or like middle of stage 2, anywhere between that period. He arrives. Like directly, we knew that he was very talented. He was very smart about the game. Knew a lot about the game, but he had a very hard time giving it to us because we didn't have a translate. So everything would go to Papago, which is like the Korean translating website instead of Google Translate. It's more accurate. We would basically have to go. Everything would have to go through Papago. Any long sentence, pretty much. Like he would have to translate it, and obviously some things were lost in translation, where he would get upset because it's like he wants to go through like VODs fast, because it would take us like 2 hours to go through like a 15 or 20-minute VOD, because it would be like very hard to explain things sometimes, and that was very frustrating, I imagine, for him. Very frustrating for us as well, because obviously we're wasting. It's obviously not time wasted, but we're having to spend much longer time than you would ideally want.
Super inefficient.
Yeah. Like you're taking so much time. Like we obviously felt like we had to improve fast because at that point we're like 2 wins into the season, something like that. I guess no, we did have a good stage, or relatively for Mayhem, we had a good stage.
Yeah.
We had an okay stage too. We picked up a few wins, but at that point you're like, you basically have to 4-0 everyone to get still in the playoffs. But you're like, at least we'll go for like a stage playoffs, that's doable. Especially in like stage 4, maybe if you felt like in stage 3 you might have some time to build up, but like you at least want to go for like a stage playoff at that point. Show them that at least like the pickups you made in mid-season were worth the organization, and that you actually made the right decision. It turned out that the translator came kind of late, but was of great use, honestly.
Yeah.
He did a good job translating everything for us. Like even because Ryder spoke in a lot of like not acronyms, like
analogies.
Yeah, analogies. Yeah, sorry. And he would have like perfect translation for them. So like, he did a really good job. Susie's brother. Forgetting his name on the spot right now.
I should know this because I interviewed Susie, but I do not remember offhand, and she's gonna kill me later.
Yeah. Either way, he did an incredible job. Like he was super good. But like things were just not working out for us. We're still like at that point we have Mineral missing as well, because obviously he had a very hard time mentally as well. Like, a lot of the stress was put on his shoulders as a head coach, obviously, and he basically like couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Some will fault him for leaving. I personally don't. I've been through a lot of stress myself, and I know how hard it is to have to keep trucking through it, so I don't fault him. I don't think anyone on the team honestly did. It's a bit weird finishing out the season without your head coach, but at the same time, it's like, we're not going to break a guy. If we're quite like honest with ourselves, we're out of playoffs. That season is literally lost. It doesn't matter. Like, we're not going to like keep some guy going to like possibly break him mentally just for a few wins that honestly don't have much impact on the overall season, right? But then Ryder comes in a while with our translator, a little bit with translator. I think the entirety of stage 4 we had a translator, but that's obviously one stage too little. You know,
Yeah.
because all of stage 3 we had to just do it through translators and like his basic English. But yeah, just things didn't work with the team. We tried integrating Saya player, phenomenal player, but just yeah.
I mean, it's hard. It's really really hard. Like,
yeah, I'd say it was a coaching personally. I mean, we have in my opinion, best Widow player in the world in a Widow meta, and somehow we're not managing to make it work. Then I think there's more to it than just a player skill. That it must be players not working together or anything like that. I think it's very hard.
I think that makes sense to me. I know that this season I was very confused at what had happened. I'm not very strategically known about the game. But seeing the results that had happened under the fact that they had actually gotten to replace their entire roster made me wonder, like, okay, well, I don't think you can blame the players because that's a variable you've changed, right? You've gotten rid of the players. So the players no longer. So for me, it's one of two things. It's most likely, I mean, the next running is obviously the coaching staff. Yeah. But then the question remains, well, why did those coaching staff get to stay after last season? Because Valiant, if you look at Valiant, obviously Valiant was like,
on stage,
goodbye.
No, it's true. Yeah,
and they did it last year too. Cuddles got, by the end of stage 1, they got rid of Cuddles as well. Right around the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks for different management types, I guess.
Yeah.
I think they somehow must believe in Mineral more than most other people. I think they see something in him that they deem, I don't know, like incredible compared to other coaches. Because, I mean, they obviously were okay with changing players. I feel like there must be something about Mineral that must be amazing.
So, question.
They value differently.
Tivik got to stay, or Tivik wanted to stay, or Tick was forced to stay if you count the 1+1 contract, whichever way you want to look at it, really.
He stayed, let's just say he stayed.
He stayed. So was that an option for you? Because obviously you were a very skilled player. Did you have the option to do that, or was it you went to tryouts and you didn't make the cut for tryouts?
No, we obviously all did tryouts. Mayhem decided that I wasn't good enough, or that didn't fit in what they wanted for next season. Never really got.
I mean, they wanted all Koreans, or most.
Yeah,
Koreans.
so I guess I don't think I played bad in those tryouts at all. I think it was just not something they were looking for at the time. Obviously, as Saya player, I have a lot of overlap with Saya player, bar some his kind of heroes that he doesn't play nearly as good as me. But obviously, his Widowmaker is incredible, and they obviously believed in his talent to, I guess, pick up those heroes in a fashionable manner. But it wasn't really an option, though. I did my tryouts. Matt let me know, I'm not getting re-signed, and that I was on the look for something new.
So then you moved to XL2, right? And
it was like a time of, obviously, the OWL off-season, going through OWL tryouts, some teams contacting me and then falling through, or other things that I'm like, I don't want to do this right now.
I want to ask you a question, and because you bring up OWL tryouts, and you don't have to give me an answer if you don't want to. One of the big stories that had kind of been out there was Washington, okay, and whether or not you were involved with them, and that was even a potential. Is there some validity to the rumors that are out there? I won't even ask you to give me more than that.
I feel like I have to give more information because rumors are out there that I asked for 130K.
If you want to clarify it. If you want to clarify, I think that's a good thing.
I think that's only fair from my side, because I mean, when that came up, I kind of just ignored it. Cause, like, I'm still looking for a team at the time, and I didn't really want to stir myself into drama unless it was like absolutely necessary. It was basically just Michael said that I was asking for 130K, and the way that went down, basically, obviously, a lot of different tryouts for different teams. Some of them which wanted me, some of them who didn't. More than fair. But I got very deep into tryouts with Washington. We were talking about contracts. I asked my agent, and he said, give me a number. I'm not going to go into the number of like projected salaries for season 2 of Overwatch League. I was talking to Washington, gave him a number that I felt fair for myself. And at the time, I had another offer coming from another team. And I said, Washington, I want to know both my options before I make a decision, which I deem only fair. And I think that conversation was like on Thursday evening or something with Washington. And by Sunday, I would have had a response from the other team that I was trying for, if they were going to give me an offer. So days go by. Washington is like, hey, have you made a search? I'm like, no, I'm waiting for for that team still to message me. Now Sunday evening, the team says, oh, we'll make a decision tomorrow. I have to tell Washington, okay, one more day. Then Monday evening, asked, can you make a decision, please? Like Washington is, I mean, obviously asking me over and over if I want to sign the contract, yes or no. Because, I mean, Wizard Young literally told me that he wanted me over Corey because he thought I was good in certain fields or better than him. But obviously, I would have had a lot more pay than Corey did. Because I guess I'm a more proven player and I felt like I deserved more. And then they didn't respond that Monday. And that Tuesday, Washington put me in a position where you have to decide now or we're not taking it. So I got my agent to message that team, like, either give me an offer now or I'm going with Washington. And then that team just flat out said, oh yeah, we're not giving you an offer. And then Washington was super pissed because they felt as though I was just keeping them on a leash because I couldn't decide because I wanted all the information.
Yeah.
And then they basically just said, okay, yeah, we're just going to go with Corey then because he really wants to join.
Yeah.
So they basically just, me waiting for another team's response to me kind of messed me over in that sense. But I mean, things happen, you know. Some things were out of my control, some things were in my control. It's pretty shitty looking back on it now. But things that go by, and obviously here in Contenders trying to do my best to get back into OWL now.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a question, because obviously you had the potential to join Washington. You've seen their results and what they've been doing, and they are by far probably, they're being kind of portrayed as the next Shanghai Dragons. That's probably, knowing that, like hindsight, looking back now, do you feel regret that you didn't sign with them, or do you feel some sort of relief that, hey, maybe I dodged a bullet here? Because being on another team that did very, very bad after. Yeah,
I mean, one of my, there was another team that I shut down because I basically said to myself, I don't want to repeat a Mayhem. I don't want to put myself in a situation where I join a team that could only be average. I want to join a team that is good, and that might be cocky for me to want something like that, to like not necessarily have to prove myself with another team. But I'm like, I don't want to go through another Mayhem, if that makes sense. So I was like, but I mean, truthfully, I didn't have too many offers. So I had like several offers, but one of which are teams where I thought in tryouts their roster didn't look strong, turned out to be much stronger on paper afterwards. So that kind of hurt saying no to them. I think they pick a better player afterwards. Yeah. But I think it's different with Washington now. I mean, obviously, it's easy to talk bad about them now that they're doing worse. So, I mean, right now, I say that it's good that I dodged it, sort of. But at the same time, it's like still a bit fussed that the team that I was talking with didn't give me an offer and kind of messed me up in that sense from not joining Washington. But I guess, I mean, in the end now, I guess it's easy to say, yeah, I dodged a bullet not joining Washington. But at the same time, I mean, they have some talented players, they have talented coaching staff.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I think hopefully they do well, but
yeah, I think people grossly misunderstand the way that esports is a lot of times. They think that it's like all roses and petals. They're like, there's a lot of that. I mean, obviously, the thing with Harsha that someone had brought out, it might have been Michael too, which is maybe something that should be clarified in itself. But like that he was offered a contract verbally and they never gave him one or something like that. I don't know. Either way, like there's a lot of shit that, like, I mean, frankly, happens because it's contract work, and that's kind of how contracts work sometimes. It's really kind of crappy. So moving on from that, the tryout phase for offseason obviously did not work out for you. So then you get onto XL2, and you get onto there, and you're playing from home.
Yeah, correct.
With, is it 200 ping?
It's like 180 to West Coast. East Coast will be like 120, 130.
Okay, is that something that is? Was it like? Do you still feel like you performed well? Like, is it something that you feel proud of the work that you did on XL? Because obviously you took a third, fourth end of contender season finish. Yeah. Is that something you feel proud of, or do you feel like there could have been more? Where like if you guys would have had a house, you would have done better. Excuse me.
I think we definitely would have done better. I think it's naive to assume that we wouldn't have. I mean, I was playing on 180 ping majority of our matches because most teams decide to play West Coast. And even if it's our map pick, we decided to go West Coast because the XL2 house was actually located in LA. So the 5 guys on my team obviously were in LA. Bar, Huyel, and Tizzy. But Tizzy didn't play because of the ping. But obviously me and Huyel had to play on ping. West Coast was better for Huyel because I think he had to play on like 150 if I'm correct, from Korea. So I think it's fair to assume that I would have done better.
Could you guys just not get visas in time, or was it not an option for you guys?
I signed my contract like a few days before the season, so for me it was very unreasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it was up to me. I would have had a visa, but visas cost a lot of money for Europeans.
Yeah.
For the organization, it's like for a 3-month period to probably get like a month use out of the visa. It wasn't exactly worth to get a visa for me.
Sense.
Understandable. I mean, is it frustrating? Yeah. Is it understandable? Yeah. Just kind of like I have to go through it. It was kind of just a period for me where I'm like, okay, I'll take this challenge where I'll play on NA contenders, try and prove my worth and hopefully get picked up for Overwatch League. In the meanwhile, because I think I'm a good enough player. But obviously placed 3rd, 4th with XL2. Funnily enough, I actually picked XL2 because I thought, well, in my opinion, they did the tier 2 scene the best. The way they support their team and just the way they view tier 2. But obviously afterwards they decided that they wanted to change their approach to tier 2, which I know a lot of people got mad at them for wanting to pick up locals, but I think it's something.
But the way that they did that whole PR,
the way they worded it was wrong.
It's just
well, the way they worded it was wrong, and made them seem a lot worse than what they actually intended it to do. I think if they were just straight up honest, they would have had a better. They were better off, but obviously they try to make it look more fairy tales and whatever not.
Yeah.
So it was like, obviously they changed their approach, which I think is fine. Tier 2 right now is not exactly the most blooming scene in Overwatch.
No.
So I think it's fine to focus on a different field.
I think that's
focusing on local talent is like really cool, and it gives them opportunity for local communities. It draws a lot more attention to the main team as well. So I think that's. I think
it was funny that they did that and then they pulled in Koreans, which kind of makes sense. The way that they did the whole thing was just a bad PR stunt, which feels bad.
I think you also have to realize that even though they might have had good players on the XL2 team, there's absolutely zero chance that they grow through the main team.
Yeah. No.
So it makes sense that they pick up Koreans that they deem good and that they try and grind in their contenders team and then potentially bring them up to the main team.
Yeah. But you get 3 import slots, right? In contenders, is it 3?
Yeah, I think half your team has to be NA, half your
which makes sense to have all of those players be Korean. Then, if you expect any growth into the actual Overwatch
into
team.
the mid, yeah. So that makes sense. But that combined with the wording obviously made it seem really weird. Obviously they picked up some tri-state locals, so.
Yeah. So you're now on Montreal Rebellion.
Correct.
Did I say that right? Yeah. Okay, I did.
Yeah, the Montreal Rebellion.
I always get their name mixed up. I don't know why, because I always think of Toronto, but Montreal Rebellion. Which I have a lot of attachment to your team. Nomi was actually my second guest on this show. I know Dream, who is obviously your head coach. What is the experience on Montreal Rebellion? Because you guys just got to the house recently, in the snowy hellscape of northern
Montreal.
Or Montreal. So you get to enjoy that. Have fun.
Thanks.
What do you think of being on Montreal Rebellion in comparison to an Overwatch League team and in comparison to another academy team?
Obviously, visiting a new different country, that's always fun. Playing with a lot of teammates that I've never played before. I think some of them whom are unproven, I think is a new challenge for me as well. Obviously, a lot of the first generation boys got picked up. Naga, whom I've talked to in the past, who I think is a great player. Nomi, obviously, he's a proven OWL player. So it's great to play alongside him. I think there's some really unproven players on this roster whom I think have a chance to prove themselves now on this academy team. Obviously, it's really cool that I'm able to play in America, play with slightly less ping, still get an 80 ping to West Coast, but it's doable now. But it's really cool. I feel it's sort of like a mini project as well. Obviously, we're not off to the best start. We're 0-2 right now.
Yes.
Played our previous game. I played our second game yesterday, so it's a rough start. I think there's a lot of things that we need to fix as a team. Yeah, I don't know. There's not much more, not much more to it. We've just been here for a week. No, I mean, yeah, we still have quite a while to go. We'll see how the season.
That's fine. I'll make sure to ask you later on that. So I have one last question for you. This one is arguably the hardest question, depending on who you are. You've had the experience of being on my show. You've watched some of my show. If you could see anyone to be on the show, and what I mean anyone is they just need to be involved in esports in some capacity. They can be behind the scenes, they can be casters, they can be players, they can be coaches, they can be analysts. Just need to be involved in esports. They do not need to be involved in Overwatch specifically. They can be involved in other games as well. Who would you have be on the show?
That's tough.
Everyone says this.
Because I don't necessarily know anyone that has like...
If you say a name and they've been on the show, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I feel like someone who works behind the scenes would be really, really cool for the Overwatch League. To show people like someone who's like busy with the actual production.
Okay.
I'm not sure... I mean, personally, I don't know too many personally, obviously, but I see like a lot of people... Or I saw a lot of people that work really, really, really hard on production. Obviously, I don't think they get enough praise. Personally, I mean, those people put like
I love those people
as much as we put in like a 4-hour like marathon, I guess. Play the game or like a 2-hour marathon, like that we put in. Like those people are there for like 12 hours.
Oh yeah,
12 to 16 hours or like some crazy long periods of matching, and they like do their job so damn well. So. It has to be someone from like the OWL back production.
Okay.
That I say, but I said I don't know them personally, but they're all like really cool, chill, hardworking.
Some other people that people have mentioned has been like Alchemist is one that people have mentioned a lot.
Yeah.
So okay.
There's a lot of history as well in different games, so that could be very cool.
Okay. Do you have any shoutouts? I don't normally do them, but if you want them, I'll give them to you. Otherwise, I'll end the show.
Not necessarily. I guguess just. Logix.w on Twitter and Twitch. That's my personal social medias.
Yeah, you guys can see it on the screen that I have here for my overlay. Make sure to go follow him there. Thank you so much for being on the show, Logix. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been a ride. It's been a fun ride. 2 hours. Pretty good.
There you go.
So
that's a good conversation.
That's what it's supposed to be. So thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you share, and I really hope people get something that this helps them with, because I think it will. I think you offer a lot of insight that can help people. So I really appreciate you coming on this show. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Deep Dives in the Minds of Esports. My name's Blake Pandashevitz, and until next time, have a wonderful day.